something that you said about the USDA. You said the USDA has to approve it first, and then it goes to our board?
USDA does approve first.
Have they approved it? That's,
We could say that they have approved just because they've been involved with it all along. They have verified all the figures and all the information that has been gathered. In fact, a lot of it has been provided by them, yes.
My name is Jerry Warner, and I'm a member of the New Hope Baptist Church. It's up here on 478. And I was wondering why churches are classified as commercial rather than residential. I've been up here a long time, and I guess they changed boards. At first, it was classified as residential, because we don't even use a minimum, and the minimum was like $14.50 or something. And now the minimum is $31, $32. And I was wondering why they changed the classification. And a church, you're there maybe 4 times a month, and you use the bathrooms, and in the summer we use air conditioning, but you only have 3 or 4 hours each Sunday, so you wouldn't even use the minimum. I doubt if we use 1,000 gallons a month, but we're paying the commercial rate at 30, 32 or whatever.
You want me to answer that question? You want to respond?
Let's let everybody speak because we're on limited time.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will answer you. We're going to make a written list of questions.
Okay.
And we'll answer everybody in writing. And so would you prefer that we call you or send you mail?
It'd probably be easy if you mail.
Okay.
But if you call me, the way it is,
Okay.
if you might not get me, but if you send me a letter, I'll probably get that.
Okay. Well, and if we come to the end of our time and there is time, Martine can come up and address questions too. But we want to try and get through as many comments as we can.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Good evening, I'm Martin Lopez, and I'm the general manager with the L'Oreal Grande, and I will address that one question, sir.
Okay.
The classification is really set forth by the Environment Department.
Mm-hmm.
So typically in a residential home, it's a family living there.
Right.
Anywhere where you have more than 25 people that gather, you're required to have certain components like backflow preventers and other devices that the original water systems didn't really used to implement.
Mm-hmm.
So there's backflow tests, there's other reporting requirements that are set aside for commercial users. What the board adopted last month was actually an evaluation we're going to do of all of our commercial buildings or commercial customers. That it's part of the Mesquite Sewer Project, but we're doing this on all the facilities to determine whether there's any kind of discharge, whether some of the churches have kitchens, some don't.
Right.
So we need to make that separation. So we will do an analysis and determine, or probably create a different category, is what has been recommended by some of the board members.
Yeah, we've got less than 25 people. We don't have a kitchen. We're just the bare minimum.
I understand, but we need to provide that data to the Environment Department as to why we would move somebody from that classification or even into a different classification. Yes.
Well, no. If I may pass to Robert Fields, our membership, as he said, less than 25, our membership is like 4. We meet every Sunday, but at one time we were only meeting on the 1st and 3rd. Like I said, we have no kitchen facilities, we have none of these things. And I, like him, was wondering, when did it become commercial as opposed to residential? But you gave kind of that answer, I said, and how we would face that. And so based on our membership, it will determine where we will become. If I'm understanding.
Yes, sir. And yes, and the other thing that, just for clarification, is some of the original entities, Vado, La Mesa, Berino, classified everybody as residential. So as part of our merger, we had an assessment done actually by the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, where they came back and said, you know, this is really a commercial unit. And we had people going door to door just identifying whether it was a residence or if it was a commercial unit. That was back in 2009, 2010, so now we're going back and cleaning up those files and saying, you know, maybe this needs to be classified under a different category or the creation of a different category like a small business.
Oh.
In addition to that, what I'd like to say is that it also has to do with the purpose of the water. And by that I mean, as part of the water conservation plan that was put together a number of years ago, there had to prioritize who gets disconnected first or who gets cut off first in the event of a drought. And so commercial will have to be one of the first ones to be pulled out, because the entity, whether it's a mutual domestic or an authority, has the responsibility to provide water for human consumption over commercial and industrial. And so in order to do that, we need to determine who's commercial and who's not.
This is Orlando Jimenez again. As a low-income resident, that even with your option number 1, you are raising it, and I understand that the need is there to raise it to at least $14.50 higher for the 6,000 gallon users. And if you're a 10,000 gallon user, it raises at $20.50 higher. This is going to impact low-income residents, which is a majority of the people that live in the colonias. And as a representative of the Colonias Infrastructure Fund Board, I'm very well aware it's not just here, it's everybody that is going with. We had somebody at our board meeting that was complaining of $1. You remember that over $14.50, I can tell you, for me, is a lot of money. It's a lot of money because that's part of my grocery bill. That's part of my electric bill. And I would just like the board to bear in mind that the gas rates are going up by 30%. And Zia Natural Gas is very difficult to work with as far as payment arrangements, as far as trying to stay on task. They don't accept payment arrangements except for once a year. So there are a lot of variables that I would like the board to take into consideration before they completely implement the whole fregazo, as they would say, I'm sorry, the whole thing at once. Because it's really going to impact a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of disconnections and a lot of people that are going to get hurt by this, especially right now during the winter months. February still is winter, although it's not as bad. We still need our water. And so I'm asking that the board take that into consideration and maybe find a way to implement it slowly over 6 months if possible. Thank you.
Orlando, I can address, Olga had mentioned that our last rate increase was in 2012. Well, in 2013, the board of directors required the authority to look back and cut things wherever we could. So there was not a 2013 increase. We cut out of the budget about $600,000. We eliminated 6 positions. We cut back on office hours, shut some offices down. So we have cut services wherever we could, which impacted the budget, and we came in with that budget. The problem is that, just like you all, the gas company, electric company, everybody keeps raising the prices on us, and that will impact our ability to get the water to you all. So, I mean, again, we didn't do the rate study last year because the board, across the board, cut expenses versus any kind of increase.
And I totally understand that it's necessary, especially if it's $14.50, I'm not complaining. However, if it could, again, be done slowly so that the
Phased in.
isn't felt in
Yes.
February. That's,
Understand? Yes, sir.
thank you.
One other thing we've done is we have a freeze on employees.
Yeah, there is a hiring freeze, so we're not bringing anybody on board. We're really streamlining a lot of that personnel project. I see the folks from here from La Union. We actually used to be their contract operators, and we had to, bow out of that contract because it was the concentration, the focus was here. With the authority, we did the same thing with the Desert Air Mutual Domestic and cut that contract out over there. And just to focus on cutting expenses here with the authority.
One of the things that I'd like to mention is that the board has done due diligence to look at what is realistic as far as expenses, operating expenses, and what's not. The other thing we have to take into account is that back in 2009, 2010, when the authority was formed and we went into implementations, we didn't have accurate data. This is a shock for all of you, but it's not a shock for me. I did the rate analysis then. We didn't have true data. We now have true data. We really do know what it costs to operate the authority. We didn't have that information back then. So we started with the rates that you have been under for the last 3 years. But we knew that they weren't going to hold you very long because it was just a matter of getting them the information to where we could say it's solid information that we can go from here. It is a significant increase, but then again, it goes back to the fact that we didn't have all the information that we needed at that time to make a better rate structure at that. Then the board has been we've been going back and forth on what is and what isn't for the community, what is the right thing and what's not the right thing, and the board is very much aware and concerned about the fact that there are low-income residents, and I am very familiar to this area, so we respect that, but then on the other hand, once you cut down to the bare bones, you can't cut anymore, so the board will have to make the decision on the implementation, and I think they're sensitive to your request.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If there are no other comments or questions, then with that, we will conclude the hearing at 7:03. Thank you very much.